Тоді у мене друге питання. Ви ж, от пані Наталя згадала реформу 2003 року і низку законів про пенсійне забезпечення. Там одна з норм звучить таким чином, що запровадження накопичувального другого рівня обов'язкового, воно можливо по досягненню дефіциту пенсійного фонду. Чи є в залі людина, от особливо цікаво це спитати на фінансовій конференції, яка пропонує чекати до того, коли буде досягнутий баланс солідарної пенсійної системи, відповідно, офіційний уряд заявить, що в нас нема дефіциту пенсійного фонду. Єдиногласно, так? Отлично. Ну, тоді, власне, нам буде легше. І я зараз надам слово директорці Світового банку по Україні, Білорусі, Молдові Сату Kahkonen. Чому ми запросили Сату? Справа в тому, що декілька днів тому від імені Світового банку був написаний лист на адресу українського уряду, який говорить про те, що Світовий банк не зовсім погоджується з окремими нормами цього самого законопроекту 6614. Хоча до цього, мені здається, 27 травня був лист, в якому писали, що міжнародна спільнота, включаючи Світовий банк, підтримує положення законопроекту, пов'язані з реформою. Я думаю, що ті люди, хто там слідкує за засобами масової інформації, ви вже чули про певний виток інформації. Я свідомо зараз не буду говорити, які пункти заперечує Світовий банк, тому що думаю, що ми повинні це почути від першої особи, і тим більше, наскільки я знаю, ви саме і підписували цей лист. Тому які заперечення висуває Світовий банк урядовому законопроекту щодо пенсійної реформи?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to come here this morning. Let me start by saying that the World Bank actually does think that the pension reform is absolutely necessary for Ukraine, and it's also very urgent. Yes, we sent a joint letter with the IMF a couple of days ago to the government because the revised draft law that was put up for discussion a few days ago, earlier this week, had changed quite a bit. And it has changed in such a way that it raised significant concerns, not only in the World Bank, but also in the IMF. And I'm going to first explain to you why we think that the pension reform is urgent and necessary, and then I'm going to explain to you what exactly is raising a concern on our side. First of all, and we have been quite public and open about this, we have been saying that your pension system that you have in place today is not fiscally sustainable, it's not socially sustainable. Pension spending in Ukraine is 11% of GDP, is exceptionally high by international standards. You reduced the social contribution rate from 44 to 22% a few years ago, and it actually created a massive hole in the pension fund. And government had to step in and finance that. So every year now about 6% of GDP is going from the government budget to finance the pensions. And that is not sustainable. Your government doesn't have money to finance everything. So they are very much looking at how can we make the system fiscally sustainable so that we can continue paying pensions also in the future. It's a real concern. But what has been very much a concern to us, also on the World Bank side, is the social sustainability of the pensions. The pensions have eroded in Ukraine over time significantly. 70% of pensioners today require minimum subsistence to survive. And that is not right. Every pensioner should live with dignity. And so also from that point of view, you have to reform your pension system to make sure that people will be able to get adequate pensions in the future. And this has been one of the key points in the discussions in the past several months when the government has been designing the revisions to the pension system, to make sure that it's not only the current pensioners that are going to get adequate pensions, but it's also the future pensioners, many of you in the audience, that you know that if you contribute today, you are going to get something back from the system. What also has happened in the pension system is that the contributions have declined significantly. And the reason for that is that at the moment, pretty much everybody is getting the same amount of pension, regardless of what you have contributed. So the system has become almost like a flat pension system. It doesn't matter whether you have worked 30 years, 25 years, or 5 or 10 years, but the people are getting more or less the same, and people are retiring early. Is that fair? No. I would think that if I contribute to the pension system, that I'm going to get the money back, what has been the social contract at the beginning when I started contributing. If I work long, I will get more. If somebody works less, will get less. That's not happening today. And so you're getting into a system where people have stopped contributing. The pension system is becoming very, very wobbly. And if nothing is done today, in fact, the pensions that the people are getting, they're going to go down significantly. In fact, that's what we were worried about, is that you are going to have a massive problem of elderly poverty if you don't act now. So in our discussions with the government, we have been trying to design a new pension system or revise the existing one that would be fiscally sustainable, but also provide adequate pensions for pensioners today and for those in the future. And I was surprised to hear from the People's Deputy that the draft bill that you now have would impoverish people, because in fact this was precisely the point we were fighting, that the pension system will have to be better moving forward. And the draft bill that initially the government submitted to Rada indeed was doing that. It was improving the fiscal sustainability and the social sustainability. So making everybody better off at the end of the day. Then why did we send the letter? What happened? There were several provisions that had been changed in the law before it went back to the second reading to Rada. And some of these fundamental things that I mentioned had been changed. First of all, the indexation of pensions, the new indexation formula, its implementation was proposed to be postponed until 2021. Instead of starting it in 2019. There was always an agreement that 2018 is going to be a transition year, 2019 it would be implemented. And so there was no spelling out who is going to decide then on the pension indexation in the meantime. If I were you, I would be very concerned, because one objective of the reform is to make the system rules-based. People need to know what the rules are in order to contribute. If you don't know how the pensions and the money will be indexed in the next 3 years, why would you contribute? So the predictability of the system would be sacrificed. Also, if the pensions are not indexed in the next 3 years, we did the calculations, there would be number of pensioners that would fall into poverty because the pensions would erode further. So this is a very critical issue. Please do not delay the implementation of indexation by 3 years. One reason why the pension system is also today in a bad shape is that during the crisis years, the indexation of pensions was stopped. So don't continue that mistake any further. Then a couple of other things. So one principle is people should, we basically want the system to provide incentives for people to contribute, and then people to get back according to what they have contributed. But there were several provisions that actually broke that link. So there were provisions added. People who are in the university would suddenly be getting pension benefits, Stasi, for those years when they're in the university, even though they are not contributing to the system. And that's a fundamental, link in any pension system. You are getting back money if you contribute. And the same then regarding on a couple of other areas, people who are on maternity leave or people who are not contributing to the system would also get years of service for those years. And that would be fiscally very costly, because the proposal is that the government would pick the tab for all of this. Even if people don't contribute, the government would have to pay. So suddenly, the premise that this new system should be fiscally more sustainable, socially more fair, is starting to crumble. And then finally, there is a transitional support. Now, we completely understand there has to be transitional support when you shift to into a new system. But again, you have to do it in a fiscally sustainable manner. You provide the transition support to those people who really need it. So those who are poorer, those who are more vulnerable. So you have to means test the benefits that you are giving. So it was this link, providing incentives for people to contribute, providing incentives for people to work, making the system fair, meaning if you contribute, you will get money. If you don't contribute, you should not get the same level of pension to those who have contributed 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years. So that's justice. Nobody is going to be left behind, because there are the minimum pensions and there is minimum subsistence that people are going to get. But it's simply not trying to make sure what other European countries are doing nowadays. There's a lot of pension reform that have been going on in the past few years, and we are working across the world. People are living longer, and everybody is trying to find a way, how are they making, how the systems are more just to the people who work and contribute. I want to say one more thing about the funded pillar, because that's a big discussion in Ukraine now, has been big discussion also in the past 6 months. We have told both the government and we have told also some members of parliament that we are ready to provide support and work with your government to get Ukraine ready for the funded pension pillar, for the second pension pillar. Its time will come. But in the law it was stated that it would be introduced in 2019, which is very, very close. And we have been working on funded pension pillars and introduced them in a number of countries, in many of the neighboring countries in Europe. We know what it takes to get the country ready to introduce that funded pillar. And when we assess where Ukraine is, because you have to have a highly functioning financial system, and there are other people in the panel who are going to be talking about that. There are some basic fundamentals where Ukraine is not ready yet. If you work systematically in the coming years to that direction, you will be getting ready. But frankly, if you rush, if you implement the funded pension pillar without the prerequisites being in place, the money is going to be lost. And it's a very serious concern. We are worried that pensioners are, again, people of Ukraine are going to lose money because you are trying to push something for which the country is not ready yet. So please, let's fix the pay-you-go system, the pension system that you have now, because it's broken. And then after that, we are ready to support your government, we are ready to support the people's deputies when they prepare for the funded pillar. But let's do it in an orderly fashion and not in a fashion that's going to cause heartbreak and poverty for the people of Ukraine.